They'll build quite quickly.
Welcome to Global TV Talk Show. As you could see, we can't wait to talk. So welcome to the conversation. We have with us Mark Colo, who's sitting on a lake in Guatemala. Not really, though. It's just a fake background. And then we have Andrew Elliman, who's in his house, I guess, in England.
Yep.
And Paul Falcone, who's in his living room. Is that a real living room behind you?
Yeah, this is the office, the home office, Ed. Sure.
Yeah, in LA.
Uh-huh.
You're in LA, right?
Right.
Okay. And Melinda Stallings, who I've known for a long time, is a positive consultant. She has spoken at Harvard. She has spoken in Times Square, New York, and she is now in Austin, Texas. Welcome, Melinda.
Thank you, Ed. Great to be with you all again.
And we are expecting others to join us, but we're going to begin now. Annette Durnick is back with us, based in Cologne, Germany. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you.
Great. So this is all about upskilling, reskilling, learning new things, and it could include AI in this discussion. If anyone knows what they're talking about, I don't know anything, but we had a great expert on last week called Melissa, and she's not going to be with us today, but she will be in the future. She's going to be speaking in our London meeting virtually from the US. And Andrew Elliman has been gracious enough to introduce me to the bank in London, HSBC, and they hosted a global conference this past May, and they liked it sufficiently to invite me to come back. So we're doing it again on December 7 live in London. And portions of the program will be recorded and Zoomed, but not all of it. Andrew, thank you very much. I do want to pick up on the conversation on London with you after the show or tomorrow, whenever is good for you. I want to invite some of your corporate contacts to be live in the room. I do want to say that Michael Piker will be joining us live. And as you know, Yvonne from the World Bank will be in London also. So it's interesting, December 7. So let's talk about upskilling, talent development, talent appreciation day. There's nobody better than Paul Falcone who can take over here. I'm going to stop talking because I don't know anything.
Wow, that was a nice introduction. Thank you, Ed. Good morning, everybody, or wherever you are on the globe right now. Good evening, afternoon. The talent development stuff, talent management to me is really important because when you look at the global trends, talent scarcity is here for the rest of the century. It's not something that's just here because of COVID. It's shown a light on it, but really this is, when you look at the industrialized countries, China had the one-child policy in place for way too long. South Korea has the lowest birth rate on the planet. Japan, I think, has 125 million residents, which will be 88 million by, I believe, 2050, with the average age close to 65. This talent scarcity is happening across the globe, and it will be one of the defining factors that we move forward in. So you have to get better at talent management and growing your own. Up to now, we've been spoiled. We've had talent acquisition. All right, you can recruit, you can pay a headhunter, you can post on LinkedIn or Indeed.com. The reality is you may not have that going forward. By the time we get to 2030 and 2040, I think the emphasis is really going to be, Ed, on growing your own and talent development, even more so than talent acquisition. Talent acquisition will still be there, but I don't know that it's going to yield the same kind of benefits that we've had up to now.
So what about AI, robots stepping up, stepping forward, walking like this, but what can robots do to help alleviate that problem? I don't know either. Yeah. Anybody know?
I'll just open it. It'll help. It'll help because the robotics, when they first came out in 1969, if anyone remembers what they called the Stanford arm, And it was that 6-jointed machine that can do all these different things. It can fill vials in a lab. It can pack boxes. They thought all these jobs are going to be eliminated. And there were a number of jobs that were eliminated in the short term. But the net of it was there were more jobs at the, when they measured it, and they said these are richer paying jobs and more involved jobs. So even though there was that temporary disruption, it moved in a healthy direction. I think we're going to see the same, Ed. I think a lot of repetitive type of tasks will be able to be handled by artificial intelligence, but I think it's going to create a lot of new jobs too that we don't even know what they are yet, or at least we're guessing what they are. But it's an interesting time. We live in very interesting times because the changes are happening so quickly.
Yeah. So Andrew Elliman is European head of a very large company, AGS Worldwide. How many people work for you?
Well, they don't work for me, but they work for the company. But we have over 4,000 staff globally, and we're in 99 countries ourselves. So, yeah, quite a large organization as such.
Yeah. So does that include Mobilitas and the other units?
Yeah,
Okay.
that does, yeah.
And as European head of business development, so does that include Morocco?
Well, I look after the European piece of the business. So having said that, I do get involved with all the other branches as well when they need me. So it's quite often you'll find me doing stuff in Asia and Middle East as well. So yeah, but my main remit is to look after Europe. And and make sure that that we have enough business, and also going back to the talent thing that you're talking about, Paul. We see it on our side. We're relocating. We're a relocation company, so we're relocating different companies all the time. And the biggest thing that companies say to us is, how do we retain our talent? And where do we get our talent? So companies are coming to us on twofold. One, they're coming to us and expanding their reach because they just cannot get the talent, which is good for us because we need to move people overseas. And then other companies are saying, okay, look, we're downsizing because our talent force, we've had to rethink how we do things and, use different, going back to what you said, Edwin, not so much robots, but technology, etc., and how they can streamline some of the work that they do because it's becoming difficult to employ the people that they need or want. So yeah, so it's an interesting time. It's an interesting time.
So talk about interesting times. Is AGS involved in evacuating corporate staff out of Israel?
We're involved in most things. I really don't know at this moment. I couldn't comment, but we will be assisting somewhere, I imagine.
I bet. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Mark Colo, thank you very much for joining us. Upskilling and reskilling, because you've been afflicted with Parkinson's and you've still managed to write 2 books and go on TED as a speaker about your life, you have built your own pattern of reskilling and upskilling, almost constantly, right?
It really is, Ed. It's a constant work in progress. I tell people I've got probably realistically 40 or 50 different bodily functions that are impacted by Parkinson's. And most of those body functions are out of your control. The most common is called a resting tremor, right? Now, I just try and use humor whenever I can to try and get out of these stressful situations. But the thing with a resting tremor is if you try and control it, it intensifies. And that's as darned awkward as anything, because you're trying to say something or explain something and your hand kind of goes off. So I made a joke that I kind of throw out to calm people, to calm them down a little bit. And that's, I'm thankful I never have to purchase an electric toothbrush. And I got a few other good ones as well. So, but so I look to humor quite a bit, to try and diffuse these situations and these moments. This part of the problem is a very small one compared to what the other ones are, with high blood pressure and everything else. So it really is a challenge. But this is just an annoyance. But when this happens at night, when you're sound asleep, it's not a happy time because you're wanting to get your rest and get your sleep so your body will heal. So there's all these little things that people really aren't aware of and don't really understand when they hear the word Parkinson's disease. And I just try and increase public understanding of these conditions. So,
Mark, let me ask you a question here. And again, audience out there in the world, if you watched our shows in the past, you know they're unscripted. So here we go. Mark, when you have that middle of the night experience, is there a pill you take, or do you do that? Do you get up and walk around? Do you pray?
Great question, Ed. I pray morning and night. Sometimes when I'm groggy and tired, I don't remember to pray, but I do get up and I move around. I have another condition that most people are aware of, and a lot of people have this one, so I don't think I'm very special or rare or unique. But I have diabetes 2. So that if you've had that, or if you do have it, it makes you go to the restroom a lot. So I might go put my head on the pillow to go to sleep at night, but then guess what? I'm up 3 or 4 times to go to the restroom to relieve myself. So there's all these idiosyncrasies. And I came up with a new medical term, by the way, for you guests on the call here. Since I have diabetes 2, and I also have Parkinson's, I tell people I have Parkinides. That's my new medical term, Parkinides. Yeah. So I had fun with it.
Okay, we're going to do a show on that one. So let's go to Cologne, Germany. Annette, thank you for being back on the show. What's happening with your business? You're recognized as a leader in the German Speakers Association.
Yes, I have 2 active parts in the German Speakers Association. For all of you who don't know German Speakers Association, it's associated with the NSA, the National Speakers Association in the United States. We are kind of a daughter that had been founded some years after the NSA. And I'm active in 2 fields. So I'm living near Cologne, and there's another city that's quite big or important. It's called Düsseldorf. And so I'm organizing events for our regional group of this region, Cologne and Düsseldorf. And the other thing is we have so-called PEGs. The abbreviation is PEG, Professional Expert Groups. And I'm active in the PEG coaching, which means that we have online meetings and offline meetings are talking about coaching, about different tools, about different formats and all these things, and exchanging our experience in this. And as you know, I'm a coach myself as well. And as you've been talking about the topic of learning and upskilling, in my opinion, that's really something that we all should do. The word that directly came to my mind is lifelong learning. And in my opinion, it's so important to always evolve, to reflect myself and to learn new things. So I'm also learning new things every day, be it only, let's say, learning how to, I don't know the English word, to sitting in a small boat like a canoe, something like this. So I did this for the first time only some weeks ago. And that's, in my opinion, that's really the future, to kind of be brave and to try new things, even though I might be a little bit anxious about it.
Great. Okay, Melinda, what are you doing? You're disrupting HR, right? Oh, I can't hear you.
In November, we are bringing Disrupt HR Austin to Austin, Texas. Disrupt HR is a global event. We're in 145 cities throughout the world. But we are delighted to be part of bringing this to Austin. I secured the license from them, and the community of Austin is so ready. I don't know about all of you all, but we have people, we really want to get back and enjoy each other's company. And the thing about Disrupt is it's a very interesting format. We're going to choose 14 speakers. They have 5 minutes to present 20 slides that advance at 15 seconds each. So it's a really amazing format. I see Annette shaking her head. I'm sure that you all have that in Dusseldorf as well as in Cologne. And if you haven't been able to take advantage of attending one of those events, it is significantly different. And so excited to bring that, but talk about learning new things when you're bringing an event to an entire city that is filled with amazing professionals. As you all probably know, Austin is pretty close to being the next Silicon Valley. We've got Musk and Google and all of these high tech organizations, and manufacturing is huge here. So we've got people that are really interested in finding, to the topic of upskilling and reskilling, those ideas, those disruptive ideas that will allow for companies to hang on to their employees. Thought it was interesting what Paul had mentioned about how it's like the tide is turning. We went to using, getting new talent all the time, and now we need to focus on how are we engaging those employees? How are we making life meaningful for them? How are we making them want to get the gold watch again, if you will? And maybe not to that extent, but we do need to retain, especially our top talent. And AI will have a great deal to do with that. Right now, the other thing that we're going to do, and in Disrupt HR and in my work, as I'm consulting with organizations, is to let them see that AI plus HI, which is artificial intelligence plus human intelligence, equals that great ROI, right? We need that integration. We need people to not be fearful of AI. We need to let them understand how it can really help to simplify processes and procedures and really make life much more engaging and enjoyable, I dare say, in the workplace again, by freeing up some of that time. I think we've all gotten in that busy crunch time again. So that's where I'm at right now. Lots going on, Ed. So thank you for having me on and asking me that really great question.
I'm really happy to have you, and I want to introduce you to Stephen Howard. He has been on many of our programs. He's got a time constraint here today. So thank you for coming on early.
Thanks, Ed. Apologies for being late, but I had a client engagement, and clients are always top priority since I don't have any employees. Otherwise, employees would be top priority. But thank you for the invitation, and I look forward to a great panel discussion.
Okay, so you are now Stephen Howard Speaks, which is your own speakers bureau and platform speaker. So you've got something coming up today, don't you? Or is it tomorrow?
No, it's this afternoon. Yeah, I'm speaking at a health conference, compliance conference. Fortunately, it's a virtual presentation. But yeah, Stephen Howard Speaks is my keynote speaking platform, corporate workshops. And, I did a lot of that when I lived in Asia a few years ago, and now starting to do more and more of it here in the North America.
Yeah, I see Annette has her hand up. But before we go to you, Annette, if I may, so your book, Humany, Humony, humanyleadership.com is the go-to site. That's won awards and recognition. And so how do you sleep at night knowing that you're getting all these accolades?
Like a baby, I toss and turn all night long.
That's funny.
I was just asked that question yesterday as well. And look, I'm a human being. It's nice to be recognized, particularly by my peers. I was recognized by the Nonfiction Authors Association. All my books are nonfiction, so it's nice to be recognized by your industry peers. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, it reminds me I need to remain humble. And part of that is, my human leadership aspect is all about being humble as a leader, being open and transparent. And so I have to walk the talk. So which is helping me a great deal. Otherwise, I could have a bigger head than normal, I think.
Quickly, I want to go to Paul Falcone because you've just published your 17th book, isn't it?
Yeah, 16. 17 comes out in spring of 24.
Okay. So do you happen to have that book handy you can hold up to the camera?
I don't.
The First
I'm
Time
sorry.
Manager?
Yeah, no, the Leading Through
Let's
Crisis
see.
book. I don't, Ed. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, I happen to have it, but I'm not sure it will show up. Nope. See, it's the
Yeah, it
virtual.
kind of fades out. Fades out a
Yeah,
little bit.
the
Yeah.
virtual screen is strange. So,
Right.
Paul, thank you very much for being on this program and many others. The theme of this thing is masterminds. It's kind of ostentatious, but it's my show, so I'm calling it Mastermind. And one of the masterminds we have on the program, Andrew Elliman, I don't think you've written a book yet, but you certainly have one in mind, don't you?
I do. And actually, yesterday I was at a friend's book launch, and somebody came up to me and said, "How come you haven't wrote your book yet?" And I said, "I just don't know where to start." And they just went, "Start at the beginning and tell them your story." So I should get my book done at some stage. I keep saying there's a book inside me somewhere, and I think I've got enough stories to put into it already. So yeah, when the time's right, I will write one.
Yeah, good. Okay. So, Annette, I'm sorry to delay getting back to you.
Oh, I was impressed by what Stephen, I'm sorry, I mixed up your name, said about his activities on his speaking things. That was why I was clapping my hand. I'm just doing it, and I know that it's possible to mix it up with having the hands up. So that was my comment to what Stephen Howard was saying.
Yeah. So Stephen was our closing speaker in the May London conference and will again be closing our December 7 London event. The theme of the London event is, it's a mouthful, and I did it. Maybe I'll edit it. Global trade, global business together requires well-prepared and coached expats to go on assignment, or else they're going to blow up and be unproductive. Paul Falcone, you've got years of experience in managing people. How much is that a reality, or is it just BS?
No, I don't think
being well prepared and coached.
No, I think people are starting to really realize that the coaching piece is so important. And executive coaching has historically been done for CEOs, C-level talent, very high profile people within an organization. Speaking of technology, now they're building apps that will allow coaching on your phone so that everybody at all levels in the company, for a per employee per month fee of $2 or whatever it happens to be, everyone has their coach in a box. Now, part of it to me is it's Chat GPT pulling together, scraping things off the internet. And of course, it can't be too personal because it doesn't know the person, yet it can dispense wisdom and guidance through tougher situations. So I think this is really gaining traction. And the idea is when you look at the Gen Y millennials, 45 and under, and the Gen Z Zoomers, the 25 and under crowds, they want career and professional development. This is what's coming up in survey after survey after survey. Why not an app? So I'm not saying it's an either or. I think it's a both and. I think it can work at all levels of the organization. And certainly executive coaching is needed at the senior level and for people moving overseas. When I was head of international HR at Paramount Pictures, it's tricky. It's not easy. Even getting different plugs to plug in, your radio is a very, very, alienating type of exercise for people who maybe haven't spent that much time in a different country. So the more the coaching that goes in, the better the chances of success with expats.
So let me ask you, Stephen Howard, about when you're in front of an audience, walking around the stage. Do you walk around the stage? Or yeah?
Yeah, you can't nail me to a podium.
So how do you remember what to say when, I mean, you have to be in a zone, don't you? And you just block out the audience somehow.
And I think just the opposite, actually. And I don't block out the audience. I focus on the audience. I'm trying to read the audience to see what resonates with them. You know, and because I've been doing it long enough, I can change a little bit on the fly. Like, for instance, if I tell a story, you know, in the first 5 minutes of a presentation, and I see the audience really warms up to that story, and then I make sure, you know, I always have in my back of my mind 3 out of 4 other stories I can use during a presentation. If I find I'm talking too long and I'm reading the audience, I start to see them looking down at their phones or looking around the room or whatever, then I feel, okay, now maybe I needed to get some engagement going on. So I'll pause, and I always have some questions that I can ask at any point in the conversation or the presentation. So like the audience is intricate piece of my presentations. Is as far as remembering things, it's preparation. It's just preparation and practice. And, you know, I even practice my stories. I'll be in my hotel room. I've told the same story 50 times. I'll be practicing in the hotel room the night before or the morning of a presentation just to make sure I've got it right.
So Andy Elliman has climbed Mount Everest and has swum a good chunk of the English Channel, and you're getting ready to do another strange expedition. But so I will invite you to talk about it. But when you give your motivational speeches, it's that 7-step plan, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with what Stephen just said. You have to gauge the audience. So I have a story, so I don't have to rehearse it because it's my story. I memorize it, I know it, but at the same time, I also do presentations for work. So when we do a sales presentation, I do all of the presentations. So you still have to rehearse. You still have to. I still get nervous. I still, you know, you don't know what the audience is going to be like, whether that's presenting to a corporate or whether that's presenting to a whole stage of 200-300 people in a room. You don't know what the audience is going to be like. So you have to gauge that audience, but also draw them in slowly, draw them in so they're interested. So they're like, well, what happens next? And what happened then? And how did that happen? And then you hit them with like something very strong, very powerful. And then I have to admit, some of my story, I've had people crying in the audience. I don't know whether that's because they're fed up with me or whether that's because they are genuinely surprised what happened when I was on Everest, etc. But you then bring it back up again, and there's this warm feeling of the response you get from an audience is incredible. You know, I do motivational speaking. One about my own story, but also companies that actually ask me to do the talk for them. They'll have a theme. They say, like, we want to energize here, we want to do this here, we want to get a sales team going here. So you have to adapt it slightly. But yeah, I think you know, everything I've learned on my journeys is just my story, but I hadn't realized at the time that actually this actually fits into everyday life. And I found that this really we're taking it to a new level at the moment. So as you know, I've got an expedition company called Stranger Expeditions, simply called Stranger Expeditions because when we answer the phone, we answer hello stranger. So it just gives a different sort of aspect to people. You're breaking them down straight away. But we've actually got now Stranger Business that's added to that, which falls into the talent part that you were talking about earlier. And how do you look after your talent? How do you reward them? How do you build up the confidence for them within an organization? And we've been really focusing on that. And I've got now a few people that are experts in this area of field of assessing people within an organization. So it's funny how I'm mixing that into my hobby, if you like, which is expeditions and doing strange things around the world. So bring it all together.
So Melinda, when you spoke at Harvard some years ago, that's a tough audience. And so how did you conquer fear?
I really had there was a reception before the speaking event, and it was interesting. There are people just like we are, and intelligent people that ask intelligent questions, and of course for us that's not an issue because we're intelligent people as well. And the fear dissipates when you just get to have interactions with people. to Stephen's point, you know, when you look out at the audience and they're starting to nod their heads, it's like, okay, so let me pick up on the next point I have that can emphasize that. And I've kind of always been a big ham. I sang Hello Dolly from the stage when I was 3 years old in Satchmo's voice. So fear has not ever really been a challenge for me unless I am really stepping out and doing something new. And it mainly involves technology. But to not belittle your question, I think that each person needs to come to terms with what are the techniques that one uses. Do you breathe? Do you visualize? Do you have techniques that maybe anchor you in a safe place using maybe some NLP or whatever? But I think is really understanding that those people are there to learn from you. And I would not be providing them greatest value and greatest service that I could if I got up there and was fearful in my presentation. It's my honor, it's my duty to deliver the information that they've come to see.
Yeah, Paul Falcone, with your books, nonfiction, Harper, leadership, right?
HarperCollins, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's all about the numbers. I think you once told me that you like to, or you were told by somebody, or you came up with it yourself, that you have 2,600 questions to ask or solutions to questions, and that helps the sales, right?
Yeah, the funny thing was an editor early in my career with the American Management Association who said, Paul, put numbers in your titles. People like numbers. And it's so funny, that book that came out was called 96 Great Interview Questions to Ask Before You Hire. Now, the funny thing is, the book came out in early 1997. I thought I wrote it in 96. I would have changed that title to 97 because I wanted to remember the year that the first edition came out. But yeah, a number of my books had 101 this or 75 that or whatever it happened to be. But yeah, the advice she gave me was people tend to like the numbers because they can take things in bite-sized chunks. And I like that too. I don't need to read the entire book. I can go straight to whatever I need. And that works for me. So as a reader, I like it that way. And that's kind of how I tend to write.
So what was number 91? I'm just joking.
I don't have a 91, Ed. You're just playing with me.
Make it up, Paul. He won't know the difference.
You know, I could, Stephen. It's true. I guess he won't know.
So is it different in Germany, Annette?
Oh, no, it's really the same with the speaking and also with the writing. And so what I do during my speeches, I love to have also some visualization, especially if it's a new speech. And I love to just show photographs. And this also has the advantage. Normally I know kind of what we call the red line throughout my speech. And on the other hand, when I have some photographs, then I really know what's next, and this helps me. And the other thing I really love to do during my talks is to have some interaction in the audience. So for example, that I have a question and I ask them to just exchange for a short period of time their opinions, and this is always something that really works. And yes, one of my speeches is related to one of the books I'd been writing in. So it's related to the book that is kind of my own book. So far, it's published only in German, and Paul is really excellent in German. So he already has received the book, and if I translate it word by word, it's called The Peace Factor, Finally Peace in the Office. And that's also related to my topic. And this is also kind of the connection between love and peace and let's say the corporate world, because sometimes people prefer to have a word with the word factor in it. And so this really helps. And my latest speech is the Peace Factor, New Impulses, how to find and bind employees, as we here in Germany also have the problem to find skilled employees in the companies.
in Germany, is there currently a great resignation or job shifting as it is happened here in the US?
So I wouldn't call it a resignation. I would say the challenge really is that many people, especially the young ones, they cannot be motivated with what we in my generation could be motivated, for example, with a new and bigger car. And the younger people now prefer to have some quality time with family and friends. And so, in my opinion, things are changing, but I wouldn't call it a resignation. Maybe a resignation in this field that for many companies, it's really a problem to find new employees. And so they are also afraid that somebody could quit the job. And in my opinion, that really has also to do with the atmosphere in the company. If the atmosphere in the company is good, then people only quit because they move or something like this. And if the atmosphere is great and everybody loves to work there and everybody's telling his or her friends about the great atmosphere. And so I have the impression that there is, really this big change going on now, but maybe not only in Germany, but also worldwide.
I can't show your book, Stephen. I'm sorry. Do you happen to have the cover of the book handy? I don't.
Most definitely.
Oh yeah. Okay, there it is. Okay, Humany. So I know you've got a time constraint. You've got to get out in about 5 minutes or so. And so, what is it that you're going to be talking about at this virtual conference?
Today it's about building your business through better decision making. So I talk about how stress and anxiety impacts decision making. I talk about the perils of multitasking. And yeah, I think there's like 150, 200 people signed up for this conference. They're all compliance officers in the medical pharmaceutical industry, so they have a lot of things they have to comply with, and obviously they're under a great deal of stress, a great deal of pressure, and so I'm just trying to help them make better decisions.
That's great. Well, thank you for sharing some of that information and your time. I know you're really busy. So I thank you, Humany. And what's the next book going to be called?
Oh, I can't tell you that. I have to shoot you. Unfortunately,
Okay.
I've made a big mistake right now. I'm working on 2 different books, so I've got to put one aside. I really do. I need to start focusing after this weekend. I've got a kind of a celebration weekend coming up, so after that, I need to put my head down and focus on one of the 2, and I have to decide which one.
All right, great. Well, good luck.
Well, thank you, everybody. Sorry I have to leave, but nice to meet you.
Thank you. Paul Falcone, I really appreciate you introducing me to Eve Nasby, and both you and she will be on our New York program, November 9, virtual. And I'm going to have an announcement later this week, hopefully, about a venue partner in Manhattan. And if I can't pull that off, then I'll go virtual with you. But I'd rather be in New York if possible. So that will be really cool to have you and Eve on that program. And we do have others on the program as well. So
this would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's about New York. We call it the Global London. It'll be December 7, and Global New York, November 9. And Annette, you're going to be on our show next week, which is going to have a preponderance of Germany people, which I'm really happy about. Paul, if you're interested, October 17, and everybody. It's going to be highly energetic. The topic is very similar to this, only there'll be different attitudes, different people, and different experiences shared. And all of this is being recorded, of course. And someday I'll take all the transcripts that I have and turn them into a book. But I'm like one of those people who don't really want to do the work. Although it'll probably be a really good business card. Paul, a book is a business card, isn't it? You don't have to talk about who you are, really. It just talks for you.
Yeah, I think so in a lot of ways. And it's still not easy. As they always said through the last 20 years as I've been writing, they said, don't give up your day job. And that was good advice. And that's fine. But no, it's been fun. It's funny to me. I agree. It's kind of like your passion, it's your hobby. And
Yeah.
I've been fortunate. I've been able to turn it into something that ties into what I do every day on my job. So
yeah, thank you. Mark, you have your hand up, or are you just exercising? I can't hear you. Okay, Mark, when you can. Okay, now.
And what was the question?
Yeah, well, you had your hand up, and so I was wondering whether you're waving.
Oh no!
Oh no! Oh no! That was me. That's this thing. I'm I'm sorry.
Yeah. No.
Okay, so you're going to have a number 3 book coming out soon?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. I haven't started one yet, but I've got a couple topics in mind. I might want to do an angle talking about the caregiver, and especially sometimes when these things happen, you kind of have if you have a partner with you, then you guys have a decision to make. How much of a caregiver can they be? Are they geared for being a caregiver? Maybe not. So there's all these considerations to think about. But I know some people would be more prone to be good caregivers, extensive caregivers. And others might say, hey, I didn't sign up for this, I can't do this, So there's just so many adjustments. There's so many angles to look at it. And so that's one topic I'm thinking about. Don't steal that idea, you guys, if you would. So
that's funny. So Andrew Elliman, tell us about looking back on your training for swimming in the English Channel. Audience, this guy didn't know how to swim before he jumped into the English Channel. So he forced himself to learn how to swim and conquer that. And at an advanced age, no offense, but you've achieved that. And so this must give you, I'm guessing, this must give you a really positive sense of accomplishment and comfort. But on the other hand, I'm thinking that, knowing you as I do, that it's probably like a bug and inside you. What are you going to do now? What's the next thing that's got to be better, that's going to help you go to the next level?
It's a good question, Ed, because it doesn't end. It is like a drug. I think when you take on challenges that are way beyond your imagination, that sometimes you think are impossible. I love the fact when somebody says to me that's impossible. Well, it's only impossible until it's done, right? So, and I think it's a testament to anyone who gets up and does any kind of challenge, whether that's a challenge physically or whether that's a challenge through your own life, personal things. To overcome them challenges is huge. And for me, I'd gone off and done my Everest things beforehand, and survived the earthquake of 2015, came back 2018, broke a world record for the highest dinner party, and then I came back and I had this void of like, what do I do next? I've spent the last 7-8 years practicing for Everest, and all of a sudden I've done what I needed to do there. Where do I go? So I looked into fear. And I really wanted to explore what fear was. And I know we spoke a little bit about fear earlier in the talk. And fear comes in many different disguises. And my biggest fear was water. I couldn't swim. I could go in up to my chest, maybe the maximum, but I couldn't swim. If I was out of depth, I'd panic and I'd sink. So without a doubt, I just announced to the world that I was going to swim the English Channel. And everyone laughed. My wife nearly hit the floor and said, you can't even swim. I was 48 years old. I decided there and then I was set myself a target in 2018 that I'd swim it in 2020. The first 6 months I spent down a local swimming pool with a teacher who was teaching me like I was a kid to swim, get used to the water, transitioned into a bigger pool. And then we had the pandemic and all the pools shut and I couldn't train. And so everyone thought. But what I did then was took a slightly, I'm a risk taker. So I took a slight risk and I bought a swimming pool, a make-up one, like a paddling pool, but it was big enough for me to swim in my back garden. Tied myself to a bungee rope and I swam against the bungee because you couldn't swim around the pool, just swam in one direction. And then I transitioned from there into a river and I started swimming up a river every day. And I did that for the 2 years, getting ready to do the big swim in 2020. But unfortunately, the pandemic hadn't gone away. You know, we were still in the middle of a pandemic and they were just starting to let people out in the UK, but you couldn't leave your village. I live in a small village. And so I took my swimming pool and I took it to my local pub and put it up in the back garden. And the whole village come down and watched me as I was tied to a rope. I swam for 8 hours, making out that I was swimming the channel. Like, you know, I couldn't go to the sea because I wasn't allowed to travel more than 5 miles. So I swam in this back garden for 8 hours and we raised a lot of money for the charities that I was working for. And then I delayed the actual channel crossing to a year later. And then a year later, I took on the challenge of swimming the channel. Now, I didn't make it all the way. I swam 11 miles in total. I swam for 5.5 hours in the sea in 14 degrees in a pair of Speedo swimming trunks. And it taught me a lot. You know, it taught me that I hate swimming in the sea. But at the same time, mentally, it really did awaken me to what is physically possible. And you know, swimming out into the sea with the jellyfish things. I mean, people said, oh, what was it like when you got a jellyfish sting? And I was like, actually, I quite enjoyed it in a strange sort of way, because when you're swimming for 5 hours and it's monotonous, you get stung by a jellyfish, it's like 10 minutes of pain in one arm or in the leg or something that took your mind off the swim itself and the coldness of the water. So you start to learn. And when I finished the swim, I didn't make it to France. I made it halfway. I was ecstatic. To me, it didn't matter that I hadn't made France. To me, I'd overcome my fear and I'd shown what was really fear, like, because my fear was water. But I now had a trust in the water that, you know, once you have a trust in something, you learn to trust the water. So you float and you swim, right? So what was really the fear? And people say, how did I curb the fear? And I said, well, I gave myself a goal. I said, so my fear was water and drowning in the deep water. But by visualizing that I was going to swim to France, I had to lock away the fear. I had to lock it away because I had a task to do, right? So you become very different to the way that you would conduct your mind. And my challenges are extreme. That you know, my next one is bonkers that I'm doing. You know, I'm going to head off to do something in Mongolia across an ice link. So you know, they are bonkers what I do. But then when I talk to people, everyone has challenges that they do every single day, and I'm just amazed by these people who are incredible what they do. You don't have to do the silly things I do that are, you know, you don't have to be big ticket names like Everest, etc. You can do the smallest things, but they're amazing what people do. And some of the people I'm now talking to, and I mentor a few people as well, I'm just amazed what they do in a day. You know, and that could be just someone who lives at home bringing up a family, how they do it. I just find it amazing. So, you know, the things that we're now doing with the stranger business part of it is really exploring how do you get the best out of people, but also recognize their talent within an organization and etc. So yeah, it's a mind game. It's a mind game. And yes, to your question, yeah, there's always something else that I want to do. I mean, if I was to sit here now, I could sit here for 2 hours and tell you all the things I've got planned for the future. Whether I get to do them all, I don't know, but they won't stop for sure.
Thank you. Thank you for that example of ReSkill and UpSkill, taking chances. Mark Colo came to me with an idea a few years ago, because we knew each other through the relocation industry. And I remember we were sitting at a conference at the bar or something. And so we talked about the idea of, Mark brought up the idea about helping his, at the time, that charity get some PR across the business community. And so I said, well, why don't we do a TV show? And you'll be the star or the co-host. And you invite some of your doctor friends and contacts from the past who are working on neuro diseases such as Alzheimer's or dementia or Parkinson's and others. And so he began talking to his doctor medical research scientists. Several of them are on track to be nominated for a Nobel Prize. And I'm not going to spoil your talk, Mark, but these are really top quality people. And we recently did a program, I think it was early October, with Dr. Howard Fedoroff, who's world renowned in medical research through his company. And also on that same program was the president of the National Stem Cell Foundation in the US, and as our speaker. And also on the same program, now these are all connections through Mark, by the way, and they're not my connections. But then, of course, I globbed on to them. So, Mark, the other person on that program was Jana Stoudemire, and she's an executive with a company based in Houston. She's in La Jolla, but the company is headquartered in Houston Space Center, and it's called Axiom, AXIOM, and they, among other things, are building the next space station that is going to be commercial rather than government. And part of all of that is to do medical science research in zero gravity, in other words, up in the space station. So from all of that, we had another show just last week, I guess, with Dr. Fedoroff. And from that, Mark, I didn't tell you this yet, so I'm going to use this occasion now to tell you that I was looking through, I guess it was Sunday, I had nothing better to do. So I was surfing LinkedIn and came across, I mean, you know how it is on LinkedIn, all these names and companies, you know. He's a CEO of a Boston-based biotech company that sounded really exciting, and they've got plenty of venture money, and they're doing all this research. So I'm going to tell you the name of the company, R-E, and then the word medium, bio. Remedium Bio. Remedium, REMEDIUM -bio.com. Anyway, I got on LinkedIn with this guy out of the cold. We're not connected. I sent him a message saying, I want to invite you to be my guest at no charge to you. I want to invite you to be my guest speaker on pre-agreed questions, and let me help promote your business, because it's going to be part of a new series, TV series called To Life, ! And that morphs into med tech TV. So To Life, he's agreed to be on our show, Mark. Wow. And I'm going to ask you to get Howard to maybe show up again, and maybe we can get Paula and Jana. So anyway, we had a Zoom get to know you talk yesterday. he and his VP and me, we didn't know each other from Adam. We just hit it off. I said I was from Boston originally, and so that broke the ice. And I even put on my Boston accent, you know, park the car and have it, yeah, and do all that. And because they are in Cambridge, which is very near Harvard. And so we're going to talk about their company. And if you go to that site, remedium-bio.com, you'll see the experimental stuff that they do. And I just had it on the phone here. I was going to read it because it's kind of exciting for me anyway. Wait, I lost it. I got to bring it back. You know, I'm having problems. My fingers don't work here.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah.
But it's a biotech, as you can see there, and you know, we want to grow the TV show and keep the neuro, but we want to go to other sciences. So much like what you guys are doing, this is like my toy, and I wouldn't be able to do it without Mark. So thank you, Mark. And you're teaching me how to reskill and upskill my own stuff, and then make the application work in that new program.
Thank you, Ed. It's amazing how, you know, when you get a creative thought and you get the right people in a room and you meet the right people. That's always been interesting to me when I go to these conferences. I went to conferences for over 40 plus years, and each time I go to a conference, I meet somebody new that was interesting, and I'd learn something from it and make me a little bit better person. But it's just amazing to me how, you know, people come to these conferences so often and they're like, I don't know why they sent me to this place. I'm not having any fun. I haven't met anybody, and they're sitting at the table by themselves, but they're not interacting and they're not networking. What I did the minute I met Howard was I wanted to just pick his brain and find out who else he knew, who else he worked with. I learned so much from him. You know, he started out as a friend and became an advocate, one of my greatest advocates. And look at all these people that have come from it, Ed. Most all of these have started from meeting Howard Federer. And we'll have to talk sometime again about Paolo. We didn't get Paolo on the call because he passed away, but his wife was on the call. Emiliana, and she was amazing, just brilliant woman.
She won this French award, the Chevalier.
Yep. The Joan of Arc Award, I think they call it.
But
yeah, anyway,
for the medical research.
Wonderful journey so far. But thank you, Ed.
No, thank you. Anyway, I guess we should end this on a high note here. So, Paul, what do you got going? I see you're on a lot of different programs.
Yeah, it's always a learning moment. Okay, so my thing real quick, Ed. So, you know, is MOOCs, MOOC with a little S, the massive open online courses. And I'm starting to learn about this stuff because it isn't something I paid much attention to. But as we're talking about taking the leadership piece and boiling it down and making micro learnings and bringing it to the individual employees, there's a lot of resources on these things. And so I'm looking at about a half dozen of them right now and trying to compare and contrast which ones will be the best ones for the kind of training that either I do or I can recommend to other organizations. So MOOC, massive open online courses, is a good thing to look up.
While I have you on the line here, Paul, the writer's strike and Screen Actors Guild looks like they're going to solve things too. But the writers were the instigator of this strike, and they wanted all these safeguards, and the studios, I don't know, they stiff-armed them or didn't pay any attention, and so they were out 5 months. And it brought Hollywood to a standstill. You have no idea how important Hollywood is to the California economy, LA in particular. It's huge. And they had no idea of how many people are involved. And it turns out that the union got everything they asked for. And then some.
It may feel that way. And I think they've had a number of good wins. And that's why we're seeing so many different organizations and different industries going on strike right now, right? From teachers to you name it, the dock workers, the hospitals, everyone's trying to kind of stay on that momentum. The thing, Ed, that's the most important is what came out of that writer strike to me was they said, look, AI, it's an image and likeness issue. We don't want our image and likeness used out there to teach AI or to be used in AI without us getting some kind of royalty, which makes total sense to me. But they also said the government needs more regulation, more oversight. This is not something that's specific to our industry.
And everybody
And
agreed, right?
Everybody agrees, and the government is going to have a hard time with this, though, because they don't understand it. It's really it's intelligence that's in the hands of the companies that create it. And from what I've been reading, the scientists who are creating it don't even get how quickly this stuff can aggregate, how quickly it can learn. It's a little scary. So yeah, again, there's these interesting times that we live in. And I think there was a Chinese proverb that said, may you never live in interesting times. Now I think I know why. There's a lot going on out there. And I do think this is going to be a main focus. Remember, in October of 2022, no one was talking about AI. They knew what it was, but they did. Then like November the 15th of 2022, ChatGPT comes out. And now all of a sudden it's all the rave. It's all the headline. I get it. That's a 24/7 news cycle. That's what it does. But I do think the reality is this will be changing all of our lives going forward. We would be smart to pay attention to what some of those trends are out there.
Mark, you were on the program with me and our friend Melissa, who's the AI expert. Andy, Melissa will be a speaker virtually. She's recognized as a genius in the AI field and the applications of it to work. And she was talking about quantum computing with Dr. Paula Crisanti from National Stem Cell Foundation, and applying all of that. It just went right over my head.
It's pretty amazing how this is blossoming and growing. I listen to audiobooks because it's more effective for me to walk and talk and see the beautiful neighborhood I have and the mountains in the background. I just love walking and listening to my audiobooks. The one I'm listening to right now is an audiobook about Elon Musk and what a character he is, and I can only imagine
Walter
what his father
Isaacson
was like, because he was pretty gruff, I'm told, in dealing with him. But what a bright guy. I mean, and who could even fathom running two companies the size of SpaceX and Tesla at the same time? I mean, that would be monumental, just amazing.
And Twitter.
But he talks a lot about AI and how Google is getting very much into that. The CEO of Google is looking at AI quite a bit. And if he could steal that process for himself, the AI feature, and really grow that, I'm sure he'd probably set the other two aside and try to ramp up the AI side of it. But he's always looking for something big. And I just think he's an interesting individual. Other than our height, I'm 6'1" and he's 6'1". We have very little in common.
Andy, thanks very much for your time. I know you must be swamped after your time away, and the conference season upon us. And so are you going to be in Boston? I'm not going to be there.
I won't be in Boston. We are sending a few of our people out there for the ERC conference. But I won't be going this year. I've got other things here that I'm doing. So
me too.
It's a very busy time for us at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, we'll be in touch. Thank you, Annette, again. We'll see you next week. Paul, I'm going to send you an invite to these programs that I've got, and you can, if you find time, it'd be great. Also, to you, my friend, I very much welcome you to do this program much more. And I want you to tell us when you can about the success of Disrupt Austin HR. That takes a lot of work to do all that.
It does, but it's been exciting, and that's probably been the fear, the leveling up. It's like, I loved Andy's description about moving into understanding exactly what that is. And sometimes I'm literally walking and thinking, okay, here's this feeling. What is it telling me? When I do the debate, discard, dispute kind of thing, right? That I'd be delighted to continue to show up. And I know that I've been lacking a bit, but it does take an awful lot of work. But I am looking forward to coming back full force with you, Ed, because I love the individuals that you have on your programs. I always learn from everybody every time I'm on, and sometimes I'm just listening. I'm not participating, so I enjoy those as well. So thank you again for having me on, and I'll be happy to share what's happened with Disrupt HR after November 30th.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you all for being on Global TV again.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank
Ciao.
you.
Thank you,
Good being with
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.